So what we are going to be learning about today is how to combine different data sets. So let's take a look at an example here. So DF orders contains all of the orders of a restaurant company. And you see all of the information that it has. Now, if you look at the order itself, it's using these IDs. So the main is an IO, base is I7, side 1 is I15. There's another data set that actually has the names of this, right? So for example, I7, which appears here, its name is farro with summer vegetables, and it's a base. So you can see that it's a base. So what we would like to do is we would like to combine this information so that farro with summer vegetables shows up here, and we have all of that information in a single data set. Because if we just do analysis here, then we'll say, well, it's I7, and no one knows what I7 means. So the way we're going to do this, since orders and items are so big, it's a real data set from a real restaurant company, we're going to use a much smaller data set in order to get the concepts. So let's load up university.xls. So we just do this like this. So we go to downloads, go to university. Here it is. Okay, and here we go ahead and run it. And here's how you read Excel files. It's just a single command, pd read Excel, okay, and you give it the sheet name. So these are the full-time students, these are the part-time students, and these are the grades. So I encourage you to open up university.xlsx so that you can see this. So now let's look at the data that we've loaded. So it's a very tiny amount of data so that we can get the concept, okay? So here are the full-time students. Okay, here's their first name, last name, here's their advisor. Here's the part-time students, full first name, last name, and their advisor. And then here's the student ID with their final grade. So this student ID, for example, number 1, corresponds to student 1 here. Student ID 7 corresponds to student 7 here, okay? Now, what we would like is we would like to have a single table with all of the students, the advisors, and their final grade. Right now, we have it in 3 different data frames. So how do we do that? So here are the challenges. Number 1 is that the students are split into 2 data sets, full-time and part-time. The second thing is that the grades are in a separate data set, right? They're in DF grades. And the third challenge is that some students in DF grades may not be in the student files, right? So there may be IDs that show up here that don't show up here, and there may be IDs that show up here that don't show up here. Okay, so what do we do in that situation? So the very first thing we're going to do is to combine the two student data sets into one. So these 2 student data sets are going to become one. Okay, and the way we do that is that we just use this function pdconcat, right, which is in pandas, and that just combines the 2 data sets. And so you see here, we have the IDs, right, which are now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a duplicate because we combined those 2 data frames, okay? And we now have this in DF students. And so to clean up the index, we can do reset index, okay? And here we have the beautiful data frame now with a clean index for every single entry. Now, when we did this, we lost the fact that some students are full-time and some students are part-time. So let's add that. So here is how to create a new column. You just specify the name of the column and you indicate what the value is. So we're adding this to the data frame and we're adding it to the part-time data frame. So you can see here that we now have the student type full-time and part-time, okay? And then we just do the concat again, and then we're going to reset the index. Okay? Now, we have everything that we need. The students are all together, and now we want to combine it into the grades. Now we're going to do this very complicated thing called PD merge. PD merge. Okay? So we have DF grades and DF students. And what we're saying is that we're going to combine them using student ID. So what the system is going to do is it's going to look for student ID in both data frames and combine them using that match, okay? And so you see here that we have the final grades now added to all of the entries, okay? We have the final entries, okay? And we're doing what's called an inner join, which means that it will include only rows in which there is a match. So if there's a student ID in DF grades which does not appear in students, it will not appear in the final data frame. And if there's a student ID that appears in students but does not appear in grades, it will not appear in the final one, okay? So that is how to do this initial merge using this simple data set of university.